Support for Podcast by Night is provided by Midnight Syndicate. To learn more, visit midnightsyndicate.com. And now, part 2 of the Clan Brujah.
Because they have so much contact with humans, Brujah tend to, because Brujah are Brujah, and because they are around humans.
We don't like rules, okay?
We don't like rules, damn the man. Sometimes they are the clan who tends to, outside of the gangrel, they are the clan who tends to have the most oopsie embraces. They also are the clan that has those young neonates who sometimes are off breaking the rules and not paying attention and get themselves killed. They also are the clan who tends to have the young bloods who are like, I'm bored, let's go attack the Sabbat now. And then, someone ends up dead. There is a lot of that. You do have a problem sometimes with the Brujah in terms of following the rules, and because of that, neonates, and elders and ancilla often get affected by that. They are either punished and killed. That means there's no leadership, so the neonates are in charge and they're running the show and they don't know anything. So you do have a little bit of that problem with Clan Brujah sometimes. Brujahs as a clan, I feel they do best when you have that one powerful, charismatic Brujah who's just sort of minding all the other Brujah.
Well, that section definitely segues into the relationship that the Brujah have with the Camarilla. It is odd, strange, tenuous at best, and it tends to shift from Brujah to Brujah. Like you said, a lot of those elders know the traditions. They know what they can get away with when. And, and chances are, if you've got, ornery neonates and fledglings, they're not going to listen to the elders and like you said, let's go get the Sabbat. And they're going to just take off and just do their own thing. I mean, and that's kind of rough for, a clan that was once one of the high clans of the Camarilla. But they've, degenerated, if you will, since the Long Nights. And now they're just thought of as rebel rousers and thugs, which is, to their detriment on some sides, but, it could be beneficial to some.
It's been earned. That stereotype, that perception has been earned.
Oh, absolutely.
As your mom would say, you are who you hang out with. So, if a Brujah is associating with rabble rousers, that's gonna kind of taint the perception of how the other clans view the Brujah as a clan.
Right, and also with the also the Toreador and the Brujah, these two clans, it's like they influence the mortals, but they're also influenced by the mortals, I think, the most.
Exactly.
And that's why you've got only the elders are usually the ones that still, remember Carthage and they know what that really means. They're the only ones that try to uphold the philosophy of Entelechy. They're the ones that are trying to just sort of be the old man, contemplating his navel. The neonates, if they want to know, they'll come and ask. If not, I'm just going to let them do their own thing.
That being said, I mean, while Clan Brujah is now kind of associated with rabble rousers and thugs, and they're thought of as a low clan in the Camarilla now, that's not to say that the Brujah aren't a key part of the Camarilla and don't play a key role in Camarilla courts. In most Camarilla courts, there is always a Brujah doing something for the court. Now, right. There aren't that many Brujah princes, and I will be honest, I mean, there's just not that many. But you will see Brujah in all sorts of roles, usually in the militant roles. So, sheriff, the scourge, they're often archons to a variety of different Justicars, not just the Brujah Justicar. Brujah often serve as archons to other clans' Justicars. They're kind of the brute force of the Camarilla, and now that
They are the jihad.
Yes, they are the jihad.
They are the face of the jihad for the Camarilla.
Yeah, they are the shock troops of the Camarilla, and now that the Assamite warriors are also in the Camarilla, I mean, between the Assamite warriors and the Brujah, I mean, they make an effective fighting force, and they can.
They're gonna fuck some shit up.
Yeah, they're going to be frighteningly efficient. It's just kind of terrifying. In fact, the Camarilla in the last 20 years has been waging a series of different wars in various areas, and they've been using that tag team of the Brujah and the Assamites together, and it's been devastating on the Sabbat, absolutely devastating. And so the Brujah they have played a massive role in the growth of the Camarilla and its influence in the last few decades.
Right. And because of that, though, like you said, their fall from the high clans being associated with the rebel rousers, the Camarilla still feels a bitter sting because of the Anarch revolts and the Sabbat, and they keep an eye on the Brujah. They're sort of like, yeah, no, we want you with us. We need you, especially if we're going to fight these wars. But, we're going to keep an eye on you.
Yeah, especially the young bucks, because those are the ones who are all full of piss and vinegar, and they're going to just blatantly disregard the prince, blatantly disregard the keeper of Elysium, blatantly disregard any of the conditions about living in the Camarilla. And if it's going to piss off a Ventru or a Toreador, they're going to do it. They can't help themselves.
If Brujah are probably the most susceptible to the isms, like we talked about before, and that the same goes for some of these different sects that are in vampire society, like the Anarchs, like the Sabbat, the Sabbat. It can sound real sexy to a Brujah. You know what I mean? If it's if a charismatic Sabbat leader wants to recruit a Brujah to join their ranks from the Camarilla, they can be real effective at the sales pitch to pique a Brujah's interest. And so I think because of that, the Camarilla views the Brujah as a little bit of a risk factor, because they're dependent on the Brujah on one side, because the Brujah do tend to be the kind of militant side of the Camarilla, but then they're also are more susceptible to these other sects, to joining these other sects, because they do tend to fall into those passionate isms that they're so historically connected to.
And in all fairness, the Brujah have never been known to be willing to go with the status quo without a reason. And that's part of, they're happy just, biting their tongue or biting their thumb, if you will, and turning their noses up at the establishment. But I think that also, like you said, the Camarilla is like, well, wait a minute, we can't let them go. We need them. They're all too happy to sort of acquiesce a little bit, give them a little bit of leeway, because they also know they need them to.
There's dependency.
Exactly, definite codependency. It's like, yeah, we'll give you a happy home. You keep us honest, and you protect our borders, and we'll make sure you're fed. I mean, it's definitely a give and take.
Yeah, and I think the Brujah probably get, because of how they're perceived by the other clans, they get a little bit more leeway, a little bit more flexibility. When they open their mouths, because it's just like, oh, that's just, Tony the Brujah, he's got a harsh tongue, but he's a little bit of a loose cannon, but we're willing to accept that and keep him around because he's the one that's going to keep us safe. You have to be careful as you're playing a Brujah that you're cognizant of not going too far in the game, where you're going to push people past their limits of what they're willing to accept while they're playing.
Right. That's definitely a good point. Yeah. As a player, it's easy to get caught up in the passions of these guys.
Right.
And it might start to feel, pretty good. Like, I get to tell anybody off I want, but
I can say whatever I want, whenever I want.
Right. But as a player, you've got to remember You know, there are rules of the game. They have, you know, the 10 commandments of LARP, so to speak. You got to be able to read the room, and because everybody's there to have fun.
Right.
And you got to make sure that you're there to help that.
Yeah, and you don't want to infringe upon another person's good time and say, "Oh, but I'm just being true to my character."
Right.
Right. And I get, as someone who's played for, I don't even want to admit to how many years I've been playing this game.
No.
A really long time.
A really long time. 20, 25 years. It's there's something wonderful about being able to like let loose in character. But I think a key component of that is knowing who it is that you're playing with. Like I was playing I was actually playing a Ventru, and I was playing with another player who was playing a Brujah. And so inevitably my character and her character were deep in conflict. And we would have like screaming matches at each other and be getting in each other's faces. And it was really intense. But her and I both knew where our limits were and what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable. And it's important to know that, like you said, read the room. It's important to know who it is that you're playing with, because you don't want, we're all there to have fun. We're all there to have a good time. And you don't want to cause someone to not want to come back to a game because you went too far and you made them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I had a moment playing a Brujah where I was actually playing Tara, who was one of the... for the listeners out there, Tara is a book character. She was part of the Anarch Free State. And in this scenario, it was a Camarilla San Diego with Tara as the prince going up against a Venture who knew how to push a Brujah's buttons. For anyone who doesn't know me in real life, I have a temper. And when that temper goes, boy, it can be scary. And Tara... Tara has a temper too, and so I was channeling a lot of Jen into Tara in that moment.
Right.
And the person I was playing against, Charlotte, who was playing the Venture, I trusted that Charlotte was going to be okay with that, and Charlotte was okay with that. And so we had this amazing scene of me just like absolutely getting into her face, like I am going to rip your throat out right this second, because Tara was losing control. As a Brujah, she has the clan flaw of being close to, of her frenzy being that close because of her emotions. And she was trying to evoke that emotion out of me. And it was a great scene. But if I didn't know Charlotte and didn't know that Charlotte was okay to do that, I don't know if I would have had that. So you have to be so careful. Right. Because, I've had other scenarios playing other characters where, I would just like raise my voice, and some people were like, "Oh, I'm freaked out by that." So I had to accept you can't just scream at that person. But in that scenario with Charlotte, I could let loose.
Yeah, there's this balance that you want to have, because let's be honest, we're all a bunch of grown adults that are playing pretend. At our core, that's what role-playing is. That's what acting is. It's a bunch of adults playing pretend. And part of the reason why we do that is it provides the players an opportunity to do things that they would not do in normal life. They have an opportunity to get into a character and to be someone else for a short period of time. And there's a wonderful thing about that is what makes playing this game so much fun and so enjoyable. And it's the reason why I've continued to come back to playing this game in the last 20 plus years. Is that it's almost like cathartic to be able to get into these characters and to allow yourself the opportunity to actually be that character for the night. And so sometimes the character needs to be able to get in someone's face. And the goal and the balance of the game is to try and establish the relationships between players to where you can go to that point and everybody's cool with it. At the same time, you don't want to be the player that is the Debbie Downer and is not able to go that way, and it stifles people's ability to be able to play the game. Like there's you don't want to be the asshole, but you don't want to be the Debbie Downer either. So you want to try and get to that middle point where you've established enough of a relationship with the other players that allows you the ability to be able to get deeper into these characters, like Jen and Charlotte did, and so that everybody can be fulfilled and comfortable at the same time. I'll be honest, like I played in a lot of games, and there's been a lot of people that I've met over the years that, they were never able to be comfortable in going that deep into character, and they tended to allow what happens in game to bleed over into what was happening in real life, and those most often are the people that didn't play very long. It just wasn't a good fit for them because it is going to affect you. Anybody that says that I can just shut it off, you can't completely shut it off. You're going to have to when you're playing a character, and if you're going to play it to its full potential, it's going to affect who you are in real life. But being able to find that balance is important when you're playing with other people, so that everybody has the opportunity to really enjoy the game and get that fulfillment, while at the same time everybody's comfort level is protected. And just communication is crucial. It's important.
Yeah, we say that often about communication, and
right.
For the new players, I think we've mentioned it before, Jen, in another podcast, the idea that you play to your strengths, especially if you're just starting out. Find that clan that is you're going to gel with.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's going to help you get involved, get in there, and then you can start forming those relationships. And,
exactly.
Game after game, you're going to find that you're going to be able to go bigger later on.
You don't have to, that first character you play doesn't have to be your forever character. So, sometimes that first character that you play is just, you want to try and find a character that is going to play to your strengths, that is super comfortable and easy for you to play. And maybe the character has a lot of traits that you as a player has that makes it easier for you to play that character. Like, it's super easy for me to play a Brujah because I'm an asshole and an obnoxious person just in general, right? That was kind
not
of
denying that.
But we love you.
It comes super natural to me. So, but then the more you play and the more experience you gain, then that's when you start kind of delving into characters that are nothing like you. Like my most recent player character was a Ventru Prince. That is nothing like me, Corey, the player. It is the exact opposite of who I am as a person, which is part of what made it fun to play that character. But you've got to work your way up to that point. And sometimes starting with a character that plays more to your strengths and plays more to who you are as a person can allow you to get that comfort level with playing the game, and then it also allows you to establish the relationships with the other people that you're playing with. I can get super intense with either one of you guys in game. We never have to talk about it beforehand, and we get to laugh about it at afters at the end of the game, because we've been playing together for so long. But then with new players, you got to kind of gauge it a little bit, establish consent, and so that everybody knows where they're at, everybody knows what's acceptable and what's not. So.
Right. So on that track of finding what what gels with you, Jen, I'm going to let you say this next section because it's all in caps.
It's all in caps. It's, oh my God, I love leather and being an asshole. Where do I sign up to be a Brujah?
That's right. Yes, like we were talking about, if you were passionate about anything, if you like being that loner rebel without a cause, if you just want to be a tank that can beat the shit out of anything, then Brujah's probably the clan for you.
Right.
Yeah,
it's an easy fit.
Yeah, it's an easy fit. These are the misfits and the rebels.
And it doesn't have to be blatant.
No.
It could be subtle Brujah.
Yeah.
Right. It's Brujah embrace all kinds of people across all kinds of spectrums. The only constant is that they have at least something that they are passionate about. Their passions are what carry them. Are you going to be saving the whales, taking down the man, studying ancient Greek philosophy or religious history, Jen?
Woohoo!
hunting down those anarchs. Passion is what draws the sire to their child. And it's often makes the decision to embrace them very quickly, as we just said before. Sometimes Brujah sort of like, oh my God, I love your passion. You must live forever.
Yeah, and it's that. I mean, if there's one unifying thing about the Brujah is that they're passionate about their ideals, and I feel like we have to stress that because later on down the line we're going to hit the Toreador, and the Toreador are also passionate, but it's very different, and
very different.
And I was discussing this even today regarding B5 because there's going to be some shifting in Vampire 5th edition, which I have to read it to see how they shift it because I'm like, dude, don't mess this up. Because the Brujah are passionate, but it's not the same passion as Toreadors. The Brujah are passionate about ideals, about what they believe in, about tearing down the man, they're about causes. So, as much as Brujah have a reputation of being thugs and criminals and brawlers, that isn't always the case with them. Many can be very classy, well-spoken, sophisticated people, even like nerdy or deeply intellectual people. It's the fact that they have things that they stand by so passionately that they're so emotionally involved in those causes and it's sort of their hyper focus of what they're all about. So
do you remember Laura's Brujah that she played?
Yes.
That like super uptight, like almost like the super conservative teacher, that like, or super conservative librarian, like all about controlling herself, but so wound up so tight that she could snap at any moment, and
yes,
and you can see the passion suddenly come flaring out.
Yes,
that character was such a great example of a not necessarily stereotypical Brujah, but totally right in line with what the Brujah concept is.
Exactly. Hers was a character who was she had been working towards the right to vote for women.
Right.
And, so she had a lot of particular triggers that your Venture at the time hit on. And she would try to keep such a tight control over her emotions because she knew as a Brujah, the Brujah clan flaw is you are prone to frenzy, to let your beast out when you are pushed too far, and you frenzy in anger. That is the Brujah clan flaw. And so when Corey's Venture would push at those particular triggers that she had, she would try to keep those emotions in so tight, but then she couldn't anymore, and then she snapped. It is a classic Brujah Venture moment.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
It was a classic moment. Unfortunately, my Tremere was the one who killed her, and I'm still sorry, Laura, if you're listening. But Corey made me do it.
Tremere never apologize.
Tremere don't apologize, but Jen does.
Player does.
Well, fine.
When you're, and that was a perfect example of like, look, we played our characters full out, and we did what our characters would do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that led to my character telling your character to kill Laura's character.
Yep.
But that was what needed to happen, and it was a perfect example of that Brujah Venture conflict that goes back to to the beginning of history for this game, and where we started off from the beginning is that you've got to. It's so much fun to play.
Mm-hmm. It's
like it's so well built in to just the Camarilla dynamic that like it's just a lot of fun, and if you can get into it, it's a tremendously good time. And if your character dies, it's not a big deal.
It isn't. It's not the end of the world. You just move on.
Make another character,
Yeah. And you get to talk about your character going out in a blaze of glory from now until the end of time. You can have that as one of your war stories. So, but yeah, the Brujas, they are the dreamers, the schemers, the idealists. They believe in those dreams of utopia, and they're constantly believing that if only we could do it right or better or different the next time, society's gonna work.
Well, even dystopias. I mean, look at the anarchs.
Yeah, you even have dystopians.
They go to Burning Man.
Yes, they do. They totally are at Burning Man. You even have dystopians, the people who believe society is shit and it's all about survival. But whatever the case, the Brujah, they tend to to blame existential forces. It's true. They do tend to believe that it's always something that's causing something to happen. And that's the enemy. That's the people we have to go. That's the people or the thing or the ideal we have to go fight against. And so as you're thinking of your Brujah, just remember, keep that in the back of your mind. This is a clan of big personalities and a gajillion fulfillion ideas.
That's right. If there's a cause, then someone in the clan will follow it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they will often disagree, and they will butt heads.
Yeah.
And that's where all the fun comes in.
I'm waiting for someone to play the Brujah Russian hacker that
oh God,
that was responsible for the 2016 election of Trump. You know what I mean? Like, I want someone to play that character. Like,
oh no,
I did that because I could. You know what I mean? Like,
fuck you guys.
You know what? You know what, Corey? That actually is a perfect segue into the concepts we have, because Jen has a PSA.
A PSA.
that fits right into.
Yeah.
Yes. So, for those of you who've kind of been paying attention to White Wolf news in the last few weeks, there has been quite the hubbub. The brouhaha, if you will. John can groan at my one and only pun ever. It is, and that has been over some leaked. Well, I wouldn't even say leaked. White Wolf released some pages for V5, Vampire 5th Edition, and there has been a lot of scuttlebutt, a lot of argument and concern and worry on the forums, on the Facebook, regarding Brujah in particular, because White Wolf was listing off a whole bunch of different, groups that could be representative of Brujah, but amongst those were neo-Nazis and alt-right. And this, combined with several other complaints that some have towards White Wolf and its publication, had led to an outcry against White Wolf that you're supporting alt-right and neo-Nazi causes. Now, John and I talked beforehand. I've read the information. John's read the information. Admittedly, neither one of us knew until recently that this was even going on, because I wasn't on Facebook. I fail at social media, clearly. But we both went and looked at this because we knew if we were going to talk about Brujah, we wanted to address this. And Jason Carl even did a whole Twitch interview today that spoke into it. White Wolf has come out and said we do not support hate groups. We do not support anyone who's interested in using our game to support their hateful interests. And I know us, John and I, we absolutely do not support that. We absolutely stand against anybody who would use this game as a platform for a hateful agenda, because the thing about Vampire the Masquerade and LARP and gaming in general, not just our game, but just gaming in general, is we're an inclusive community. Let's face it, most of us who play this game, we're nerds. We are nerds who, we're already kind of on the fringes of society anyway. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, except Corey, who's the inside man. We form our own community of all of us, and we all come from all different backgrounds, and we don't want to be exclusive to anybody, nor do we wish to participate in being hateful, because to create a game, to have this environment, it requires trust and it requires respect of each other. And if you can't be respectful and trustful to each other, you do not have an environment for a game.
Right. You shouldn't be playing.
Exactly. You should not be playing.
Like I would say that, like, yes, absolutely. If you were to look at a neo-Nazi alt-right leader, that would be a Brujah character. You know what I mean? That guy would be the Brujah. But why the hell would you want to play that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In an environment where you're playing with people of different socioeconomic backgrounds that are from all over the country, all over the world. I mean, you two are the three of us are probably a perfect example. It's like, John's from Florida, right?
Yeah.
So he fights alligators and stuff, and Jen is from the Bible Belt. So obviously, like, she's a Bible thumper, and then I grew up here in Los Angeles and born and raised, and so obviously, like, West Coast is the best coast. So
yeah,
like
hippie.
we're an inclusive environment, and we're playing with people from all over the place. If your goal is to go into this game to try and piss off everyone and to try and make people feel uncomfortable, or trying to assert some political ideology, get the hell out of here with that, man. Like, that's don't play.
I really want to second that, because earlier today I was talking with somebody about like you said, the hullabaloo, the brouhaha, and the idea that, on the one hand, because I'm a contrarian.
Right.
I play devil's advocate with the devil himself, and it's like I'm like, maybe, if you want to explore some social discontent or something, maybe, but I think you really kind of put it out there, Corey, the idea that, yeah, sure, you could try to rationalize it, but why would you play this character?
Right, unless you're playing it like as an antagonist NPC, and you go through and you talk with all the players and everybody that's playing is cool with it, then maybe
right, yes,
then maybe you do. Then maybe that's the only context I can think of where like, But then on top of that, you got to remember, like, most of the time when we're playing this game, we're playing in kind of semi-public places. Do you really want to be the guy walking around, a venue in a urban or suburban environment, wearing, with a shaved head and wearing white laces in your boots, or wearing a red hat that says, says MAGA on it or something, like that? You've got to, like, be conscious of, like, your environment and where you're at, and you don't want the people that are not playing around to also be, you don't want to cause conflict with the non-players that are perhaps nearby. We're not
right. Actually, one of the, like I said, the LARP 10 Commandments is keep the masquerade. That even means, don't scare the straights.
Don't scare the normies, man.
Yeah.
And just always be respectful of the community you play in. I know, like, we
even
live in
your disrespect.
Yeah, even in your disrespect, be
even
respectful.
When you're going to disrespectful, be respectful.
Yeah, because like Corey said, we live in Los Angeles, which is one of the most diverse areas in the country. I love it because it is so diverse. And we have players of every religion and ethnicity in our game. And I do not want them to feel uncomfortable because someone says, wouldn't it be great to play someone who's part of the alt-right? Because, that's a great Brujah concept. And I hear the rationalization because, there's people who are like, well, I played that one Tremere who used to be a Nazi. Well, I hate to tell you this, that Tremere's usually not advertising that they used to be a Nazi. There's just, as much as we want to look at these darker, twisted themes in the world of darkness, and I'm not denying that, and these groups do represent a part of the real world, in fact, that is vocally against the status quo. You also have to balance that in terms of comfortability and respecting others, because this is a community. And I know our community very much is not in favor of any group that would espouse a hateful message. And
That's right.
And so the long and short of this whole PSA is, don't be a dick. The Will Wheaton axiom: don't be a dick.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
And he fights Nazis too.
he does. If you look at his Twitter, because I'm on Twitter all the time. If you look at Will Wheaton's Twitter, it is like, Will punching a Nazi Wheaton or something. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Will Wheaton.
It's simple, really. Like, you don't want to ostracize the people that you don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or distance themselves from the game, because let's face it, playing a game with less than 10 players is not really super fun.
It's not.
Like, it's really hard to really get into a game when you have a really low player turnout. And there's nothing worse than when you lose players because of something that someone did.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it affects the game as a whole. It happens. It's like you go through waves and stuff in games where people come and people go and people lose interest. And sometimes people get upset about things, and that causes them to leave, and that kind of sucks, because I'll be we've all played. Anybody that's been playing this game long enough, you've had your character killed, you've had one of your closest friends' characters usurp your character and cause your character to lose something or whatever. But what happens in game, in theory, should stay in game, and it shouldn't be something that you really want to try and be cognizant and be aware. And part of that is creating an environment where people feel comfortable, where people are able to establish relationships. We, as a club, we like to do events outside of the game. Even if it's just we call it afters, where after the game everybody goes to a 24-hour restaurant and we sit and we talk shit about the game or laugh about something funny that happened there, or just have some food together and relax and kind of defrag from whatever happened in game. And it's really a positive experience to do it that way. I've found over the years, because it helps you to establish the relationships with other players and allows the games to really kind of flourish. So I don't know what else we got on our.
So with that, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Okay, we're gonna why don't we just shoot through some of these concepts?
Yeah, so segueing back into concepts. So now that we've discussed the not fun concept, let's go with some of the more fun concepts. So great concepts for Clan Brujah. The rebel with a cause. That is the classic Clan Brujah. It is the stereotype many of you think of.
Stereotype, yeah.
It is, if you're wanting to go simple and obvious for Brujah, this is a great fallback.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly.
No. Oh, and next I've got my favorite, the college professor, as I've already said.
Hey, that's what I'm going to be in real life.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
With deep ties to academia, there's a lot of good philosophizing to be had on a college campus.
Yeah, so the Brujah have traditionally always had deep ties to the academy, and big shocker there, a lot of college professors feel very passionately about causes. So, I doubt very few people cared nearly as much about 2nd century North African Christianity as I do. But there's other cooler college professors out there who believe very passionately in social justice or political causes or environmental causes, and those are perfect Brujah characters.
So that leads into my favorite characters, the social activist. The social activist is, it's funny that most college professors that I know are actually social activists that are just happen to be standing in front of a group of other social activists and are teaching them how to be better social activists.
Yeah,
the university system, at least in our country, seems to be a breeding ground for activism.
It's true.
It plays really well. The political lobbyists, same thing. You know, they're trying to control politics and trying to change the way that I think they're moving. There's nothing that pitches the venture off more than a Brujah pulling some strings. You know what I mean? And if you're going to fight against the man, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I take it back. Anything to piss off a venture, I'll take.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then there's the philosopher warriors. These tend to be the classic Brujahs, the old Brujahs, the elder Brujahs have trained their mind and their body to the highest levels, and they fight passionately on the field of battle and on the field of reason. I mean, they are like two-fisted action here. They're just as philosophical as they are, physical. So, yeah.
The Buddhist monk Brujah.
The
Buddhist monk Brujah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
All right, and then the last one we have down is, Corey, we've got your computer hacker.
That's what I'm saying.
There it is.
Russian
the
bots.
Russian computer hacker.
Russian bots ahoy!
Oh.
These are seriously, this is probably one of the bigger groups among the young Brujah, because this is the millennials. This generation is a very computer savvy, social network savvy bunch. Hey, if you want to go stir up, as we have seen in real life, if you want to go, just in the news today, as a matter of fact, if you want to go stir up shit, then you go do some hacking, or you go do some Twitter botting.
Right. Well, and that leads us into the pop culture segment, like you said, what's happening today.
Well, I always like to ask, what in pop culture can we look at that gives us examples of Brujah? What was earlier when we were talking, you had a movie reference that you guys dropped.
Oh, The Matrix.
No, not The Matrix. It was something else.
Oh, Good Will Hunting?
Good
Will
Hunting.
Hunting. Yeah.
Good Will Hunting. The main character in there, just wicked smart, also is a dick.
Right, and you know what? And
likes to
fight, and he doesn't care. He's one of the boys from his block, and you can't tell me what to do. I don't need you to have it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Like apples? Well, I got a number. How you like them apples?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's the perfect example of a Brujah, but we got lots of others. I dropped a few in our notes. I mean, I said the Avengers because seriously, every one of those, like Tony Stark or Steve Rogers, they're always believing in something passionately, and you're wrong, and no, fuck you, and now I'm gonna go punch you in the face. Right.
Definitely against the establishment too. Like in the movie The Avengers, there is that board of shadowy government figures that rule everything, and
when in New York, what the fuck?
They want New York, so it's like they're all like, yeah, no,
yeah.
Pretty much every movie you can think of is going to have a Brujah in it. Like The Breakfast Club, John Bender is the Brujah. You know what I mean? He's the, pot smoking, rebel without a cause kind of character, and you're going to find that all over pop culture.
All over. You knew I had to work this in here somewhere, guys. You knew I was going to drop Hamilton.
Here comes.
You knew I was going to drop it.
And then John and I are gonna sigh in.
Gonna be like, "Oh my God, she's mentioning it." I'm not singing it. I'm not singing it, but
she's holding back singing it. She wants to sing it,
but I'm not.
She's reining in that passion.
I'm reining in that passion. But no, Alexander Hamilton is a classic Brujah. Whether you're going with real life historical Alexander Hamilton or Lin-Manuel Miranda Alexander Hamilton, doesn't matter. They're both Brujah. I mean, these are. He's young. He's scrappy. He's hungry. He's got a mouth and a pen that are nonstop. He has something to say, and he's going to say it. And fuck you if you say otherwise. And he doesn't give a shit who he pisses off, because you know what? He's come here for only two things: for kicking ass and chewing bubblegum, and he's all out bubblegum. That is that character. And really, and you can go with pretty much any character or any historical figure from the American or French Revolution, because both of those historical events they're like Brujah playgrounds.
Oh, sure, shaking up the status quo, getting those, dust off that wig there, elder. We're gonna throw down.
So, anyone who was a perfect Brujah could be like someone who fought in the Revolutionary War, or someone who used to hang out with Voltaire in France, or was involved in the storming of the Bastille. A lot of those type of ideas are perfect Brujah characters.
You can find all of the inspiration that you want in just about any movie that's out there and anywhere in history, because everywhere in history there's someone that's fighting the good fight, and that's going to be your quintessential Brujah.
Exactly.
Whether it's we're talking about the hacker movies or the newspaper reporter that's trying to get the good story. Those are always the kind of go-to concepts.
Yeah. And they're making another one now, even Robin Hood.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
They keep making a Robin Hood movie, so therefore
we haven't
he
made
fits.
enough of them. I mean,
No.
I think in my lifetime, this has got to be like 4 or 5,
maybe 6. I don't know.
If you include Robin Hood Men in Tights, I think it's definitely.
I do.
And then there was the BBC show, so yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But
Kevin Costner, move aside.
But yeah, you're right. Like, there's so many examples. I mean, I have on here like Kingdom of Heaven, which is about as historically accurate as having a monkey write about the history of Outremer. But that doesn't matter because I think it's a fun movie. But that idea of that whole scene with Liam Neeson and talking to Orlando Bloom about this is what a knight needs to be. Well, we all know in real life knights were never that way, but it is a very Brujah ideal of I am a philosopher knight. That's a great scene if you are wanting to play a kind of philosopher warrior character.
Yoda is a Brujah.
Yoda is a Brujah.
Yoda's a Brujah.
Philosopher Brujah.
That's right.
Warrior.
Yoda's a Brujah. All the Jedi are Brujah.
All the Jedi are Brujah.
I don't know. A lot of those guys definitely seem too status quo for me.
No, man.
But
Qui-Gon Jinn could be a Brujah.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson's just a Brujah. Let's just accept
Liam, yeah, there you go. Liam Neeson,
Every single
Brujah, done.
Taken movie ever.
That's right.
It's a Brujah.
That's right.
He's like, I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah, they're called potent celerity and presence. I'm coming for you. Oh man. Oh, that's it. You heard it here, folks. Liam Neeson is a Brujah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm all for it.
Oh my gosh.
We're all getting sleepy because we're all giggling and like Liam Neeson is a Brujah.
Well, we're almost done. We got the last segment is our reading list.
Our reading list. Like, what are the books we recommend?
LA by Night. Sorry.
Yes. Well, beyond that, read your clan books. No matter what clan we are espousing, read your clan books.
Yes.
Read first edition and second edition of the clan books and the Dark Ages Libellus Sanguinis that has the Dark Ages clan, lore of the clans. You read all those books, no matter what clan we're talking about. Go read those because those are going to have the most information just about your clans. But on top of that, Corey's right. Read LA by Night.
And Knights of Prophecy.
And Knights of Prophecy. Read that will tell you everything you need to know about like how Brujah in the Anarch movement, but even Brujah amongst themselves kind of operate and don't operate. So I think those are really great Brujah books. If you can, go look up Theo Bell. Theo Bell is all over the place, and he's in several books. And Theo Bell is one of the archetypical Brujah and is a great character. He's the Justicar, currently the Justicar clan Brujah. He's been an Archon at various different points. And he's got a great backstory. So go read up on Theo Bell. He is a great Brujah to read up on. And if you have a chance, go read up on Carthage. There is
Remember Carthage.
Remember
Carthage.
There is, for the life of me, I can't remember the title of the book right now, but I was reading it, that has a lot of the ancient cities pre-Dark Ages. So there's Rome, there's Carthage, there's Jerusalem. So, all these ancient cities of late antiquity, and what their vampire presence is, and they discuss Carthage in there, so that kind of gives you a flavor of what Carthage means to the Brujah and what the Venture's destruction of Carthage also means to the Brujah. So highly recommend all of those books.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. You have joined us for our deep dive into the Brujah clan, and thank you, Corey, for joining us. Your insights, as always, are just well thought out. Definitely wisdom for us to take away.
Almost on the red list. Almost
on the red list. And Corey, we'll have you back again because it's just so much fun having you. So.
Thanks, y'all. This is fun. Actually, it was a good time. I like playing. I've been lucky to get to play a lot of different characters over the years. Most recently, I've been playing nothing but NPCs. So like every single time I go to a game, I get to play some new character that I get to dive into for the night, and it's a lot of fun. I got to play Salvador Garcia, almost on the red list. I got to play one of Theo Bell's Archons. That was a lot of fun, too. That was a fun Brujah to play.
He was not almost on the red list. Salvador is.
Salvador Garcia was almost on the red list. Almost. Almost. I mean, it's very close. Very close. Very close. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Everybody, we'll be back next time. Jen, what's the next clan we're going to cover?
We're going to be looking at the probably the one clan that is the least happy to be hanging out with the Camarilla, and those are the nomadic gangrel.
Excellent. My very first clan ever.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
I've never played a gangrel, actually.
I don't think I have either.
We can fix that.
Never played one.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
All right, everybody. Well, my name's John.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Corey.
Well, we'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
And if you want to get a hold of us outside of our normal podcast hours, you can find us at Podcast by Night on Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter at By Night Podcast, or you can email us with any questions, thoughts, opinions, anything you want to communicate to us. You can do that at podcastbynight@gmail.com.